You know how everyone keeps talking about diversifying, right? Finding those stable investments,
Yeah.
especially with, all the economic uncertainty we hear about.
Yeah, for sure.
Or diving into something that might surprise you.
Mm.
Turns out that even folks with, serious wealth are turning to something, kind of old school, gold.
Interesting.
And not just like regular gold. We're talking gold IRAs.
Ah, okay.
So today, we're exploring how those expert wealth managers, family offices, are thinking about gold IRAs,
Gotcha.
especially for estate planning.
Yeah.
And don't worry, even though the material we're looking at is geared towards like high net worth individuals, the core concepts, those apply to anyone, really.
Yeah.
Anyone interested in gold as an investment.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's interesting because gold has always had this, mystique around it.
Oh, totally.
Right. It's a tangible asset, something you can hold.
You can hold it, okay?
But using it as a modern investment strategy, especially for retirement and estate planning, yeah, that's something more and more people are looking into.
Absolutely. And it's not as simple as, just buying some gold and like chucking it in a vault somewhere.
Right, right.
So let's start with the basics. What exactly is a gold IRA? And how does it actually differ from a traditional IRA?
Okay, so with a traditional IRA, you're usually investing in, the typical stuff, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, that kind of thing.
Right, yeah.
A gold IRA, on the other hand, this lets you hold physical gold, like actual gold bars
Wow.
or coins within your retirement account.
Okay.
It still has that same tax advantage status as a traditional IRA,
Okay.
but the focus is on that tangible asset, gold.
Okay. So now I'm picturing like stacks of gold bars in a high security vault, like something straight out of a spy movie.
Right.
But let's get down to why this matters for our deep dive today. Why is getting a clear valuation of a gold IRA so important, especially, when we talk about estate planning?
Well, the valuation, that's crucial because it directly impacts potential tax liabilities, both for like estate taxes and capital gains. Think of it like inheriting a house. You wouldn't just assume it's worth whatever Zillow estimates, would you?
No, definitely not.
You'd want a proper appraisal to understand its real value, especially before making decisions about selling or, figuring out how it fits into your overall financial plans.
Right, of course.
Gold IRAs are similar. You need a solid valuation to make informed decisions, especially when it comes to passing on wealth.
Makes total sense.
Yeah.
So how do you actually go about valuing a gold IRA? Is it just checking the current price of gold?
Sometimes it can be, but often it's not that simple.
Oh, okay.
Our sources actually point out three main methods. The first is spot price valuation. That's basically just looking at the current market price of gold.
Okay.
Easiest method, but it might not tell the whole story, especially if you're thinking long term.
So it's kind of like evaluating a vintage car. The price of steel isn't the only thing that matters, right? There's like history, condition, all these other factors that contribute to its value.
You got it. Then there's income-based valuation. This considers any potential income the gold might generate, like if you were to lease it out.
Oh, interesting.
Or maybe sell it at a higher price later on, but predicting future income, that can be really tough.
Yeah, sounds a bit more speculative.
It definitely is. It involves a lot of assumptions and projections, so it can be less reliable.
Okay.
And then the third method, that's called discounted cash flow, or DCF for short.
DCF, got it.
This one's a bit more complex, but it's favored by a lot of financial experts because it takes a long-term view.
Okay, can you break down DCF a little?
Sure. With DCF, you're basically estimating the present value of all those future cash flows from the gold, looking at things like potential price increases, but also factoring in the time value of money.
Time value of money.
Yeah, the idea that money today is worth more than the same amount in the future because of its earning potential.
So you're looking at the bigger picture, not just today's price?
Precisely. It might require more data and analysis, but often it paints a more accurate picture of the gold IRA's true value over time.
Okay, so we've got these three basic valuation methods: spot price, income-based, and discounted cash flow.
Yep.
But, we keep mentioning these family offices. How do they approach valuing gold IRAs?
Yeah.
Do they just, pick one of these methods, or do they have their own secret formulas?
Well, they tend to use more comprehensive frameworks, ones that consider a wider range of factors.
Interesting.
One they often use is the risk-adjusted return model.
Okay.
Remember how we talked about gold being seen as a stable investment? Well, these models help quantify that stability.
So instead of just saying gold is safe, they have a way to measure that.
Exactly. They're looking at the potential returns of the gold IRA in relation to the risk involved.
I see.
It's not just about how much you might make, but also how much risk you're okay with taking on.
Makes sense. So how do they actually measure that risk? What are they looking at?
Well, that's where it gets interesting. They consider things like market volatility, how much the price of gold fluctuates. They'll analyze historical data, looking at how gold has performed during past economic downturns or periods of inflation. And they even factor in geopolitical risks, like events happening around the world that could impact the value of gold.
So it's a pretty in-depth analysis. They're not just like, throwing darts at a board.
No, not at all. And this all ties into another key framework they use, strategic asset allocation. This is all about ensuring that gold IRA isn't just an isolated investment, but a piece of a well-balanced portfolio.
So even if you love gold, it shouldn't be your only investment.
Exactly. The goal is to spread your investments across different asset classes, stocks, bonds, real estate, and even gold, to create a portfolio that can withstand market ups and downs.
Gotcha.
And family offices have access to, sophisticated tools and expertise that can help them achieve that balance.
So we're starting to see how these family offices think. They're not chasing the next hot investment. They're really looking at the big picture, managing risk, and planning for the long term.
Right.
But how does all this tie into the idea of legacy planning, especially with things like estate taxes?
Well, that's where it gets really fascinating, because gold isn't just about financial returns, it's about creating a legacy. And a key part of that is minimizing the tax burden for your heirs.
So understanding the value of your gold IRA is crucial, not just for you,
For sure.
but for your beneficiaries too.
Absolutely. By knowing the true value, you can make smarter decisions about how to pass on your wealth and potentially reduce the estate taxes your loved ones might have to pay.
Right.
And it's not just about taxes either. Gold also has this inherent value that can act as a safeguard during tough economic times. And even, in some cases, provide some protection against lawsuits.
Wait, really? So it's like a financial fortress, but made of gold bars?
In a way, yeah. It's something family offices definitely consider when they're building their wealth preservation strategies.
Okay.
They're looking at their wealth holistically, aiming to make sure it's not only growing, but also protected for future generations.
So it's not just about returns. It's about building a legacy that can, weather different storms.
Exactly. Playing the long game, thinking generations ahead. Which brings us to a question for you.
Ooh, okay.
What kind of financial legacy do you want to leave behind?
Wow. That's a powerful question. And it leads perfectly into the next part of our deep dive, where we're going to explore how family offices actually use gold IRAs in their estate planning strategies.
It's going to be good.
Stay with us. Welcome back to the show. Before the break, we were in the middle of this really interesting conversation about family offices and how they view gold IRAs.
Right. It's not just about the investment itself. It's about the bigger picture, that whole legacy thing.
Exactly. And our sources go even deeper into how they actually use these gold IRAs to achieve some pretty sophisticated estate planning goals.
Yeah, it gets pretty interesting.
So what are some of the actual tactics they use?
Well, one big one is estate tax planning.
Okay, right.
As you know, estate taxes, those can really take a chunk out of an inheritance.
Yeah, for sure.
Potentially leaving your heirs with less than you intended.
Right.
But by strategically using gold IRAs, family offices can potentially offset some of those tax burdens.
So instead of just accepting that huge tax bill, they're using gold to kind of create a more favorable situation for their beneficiaries.
Exactly.
Can you give us an example of how they actually do that?
Absolutely. A common strategy is gifting parts of the gold IRA during their lifetime.
Okay.
You see, there are these annual gift tax exclusions, which let you gift a certain amount of assets every year without getting hit with gift tax. So by strategically gifting portions of their gold IRA over time, they can shrink the overall size of their taxable estate.
That's pretty clever.
Yeah.
But what if they want to make sure that gold is used for specific things?
Yeah.
Like their heirs' education or a charitable donation. Can they maintain that level of control?
Oh, they can. Family offices often use trusts for that very reason.
Wow.
A trust is basically a legal entity that holds and manages assets according to, specific terms set by the person who creates the trust.
Okay.
So they might set up a trust specifically for the gold, and it'll outline how and when it should be given to their beneficiaries.
I see.
This way, they make sure the gold is used according to their wishes, even after they're gone.
So they could set up a trust that says, this gold is for little Timmy's college fund, and no one's buying a yacht with it.
Haha. Well, maybe not in those exact words.
No.
But you get the idea.
Right.
It gives them a lot of control and flexibility over how that wealth is managed and passed down.
That's cool.
And trusts can also be set up to, minimize those estate taxes too.
Oh, how so?
For example, they might set up a charitable remainder trust,
Okay.
where some of that gold IRA is donated to charity when they die,
Oh, okay.
which then reduces the taxable value of their estate.
That's interesting. So they're not just protecting their heirs. They might also be supporting causes they believe in.
Exactly. It's about aligning their financial strategies with their values and long-term goals.
Makes sense.
And then there's another aspect of gold IRAs we touched on earlier, asset protection.
Right, that whole financial fortress idea.
Yeah.
How does that actually work? Does it make the gold, untouchable?
Well, it's not a magic shield or anything.
Right.
But in some cases, gold IRAs can offer some protection from, creditors and lawsuits. It's important to remember that those laws around asset protection, those can vary.
Of course, yeah.
Depends on where you are and the specific situation. But the general idea is that assets in a gold IRA, they might be shielded from certain types of claims.
So if someone were to run into some legal trouble or a tough financial situation, a chunk of their wealth in that gold could be protected.
Yeah, that's the general idea.
Okay.
It is a complex area, though. It's always crucial to get, specific legal and financial advice for your own situation. But it's definitely a factor that family offices think about. When they're building these wealth preservation strategies, they're looking at their wealth from all angles, trying to make sure it's not just growing, but also protected, for the future generations.
So it's about more than just returns. It's about creating a legacy that can survive anything.
Exactly. They're playing that long game, thinking generations ahead. Which kind of leads us to a question for you.
Okay.
What kind of financial legacy do you want to create? What are your long-term goals?
That is a big question. Maybe something for us all to think about. But, hey, that's actually a great point to move on to the final part of our deep dive, where we'll break down the key takeaways from everything we've learned about gold IRAs and what it all means for, you.
There's still a lot to unpack as we connect these concepts back to the, everyday investor in their own financial journey.
We've covered a lot of ground today. This whole world of gold IRAs, different ways to value them. We even got a peek into how those family offices think. It's been fascinating.
It has. But now let's bring it all back down to earth. What does all this mean for, the regular investor? Should everyone be rushing to buy gold bars?
Right.
Well, maybe not rushing. But taking a thoughtful look at gold is definitely a good idea. And what's really interesting here is that even though our sources focus on those, high net worth individuals and family offices, the basic ideas we talked about, those apply to, anyone who's curious about investing in gold.
It's like we got a sneak peek into a super exclusive wealth management class or something.
Exactly. So let's break down a few key takeaways, right? First and foremost, understanding how to value your gold. That's crucial. Whether you're thinking about a gold IRA or just buying, some coins or bars, knowing what affects its value, that helps you make better decisions.
Right, and we learned that it's not as simple as just, checking the daily price.
Nope, not at all. There are those other approaches, remember? Like income-based valuation and that discounted cash flow thing.
Yeah.
Those give you a more complete picture, especially for, long-term planning.
It's like realizing there's more to a house than just its size, right?
Exactly.
You got to look at the neighborhood, what you can potentially fix up, all sorts of things.
You got it. Okay, second big takeaway, strategic asset allocation.
Right.
Even if you're totally sold on gold, it shouldn't be your only investment.
Don't put all your eggs in one basket, even if it's a golden one.
Exactly. And finally, this deep dive has really shown us how important it is to think about, legacy, something we tend to put off, honestly.
Yeah, it's easy to do.
But whether you're a seasoned investor or just starting out, considering how your assets, including gold, might pass on to your family, that can have a huge impact on your loved ones down the line.
It's a good reminder that financial planning isn't just about numbers. It's about, the future you're creating for yourself and your family.
Well said. And in a world where things change so fast, financially speaking, getting advice from experts, doing your research, and hey, even listening to podcasts like this one, all of that can make a real difference.
Absolutely. So, to our listeners, as you navigate the world of investing, remember that gold can be a valuable addition. By understanding its value, how it fits in your portfolio, and its role in your legacy, you can build a stronger, more secure financial future for yourself and for the people you care about. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.